I don't know, Adam. Fucking, are we ready?
We're on.
I love you so much. Welcome back, everyone, to another fantastic episode of Raised by Spoilers, where we watch and unpack cult movies. Some of them bad, some of them good, most of them. Sometimes we don't know. You know, opinions are relative. Time is a flat circle.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey
Wibbly
stuff.
wobbly. You see yourself at the void of darkness, staring out into the abyss, and sometimes it says "Raised by Spoilers." Tonight, joining us, the feminist warlord herself, everyone's goth mommy, with an extra layer of black lipstick on, Nintendo Geek.
I will never do anything for your pleasure.
That's a great thing for a wife to say.
Loving that. Loving that. The man who hates everything, the friendliest DM, plebeian Adam.
This intro could be a legend, but all I got is this dead end.
You're on a fucking dead end with the new layout of the set, sir. Thank you very much for those video watching. Look at us. Look at us. We changed some things. It's fun. Amanda grew a beard.
Also, you can call me the satanic feminist warlord.
The satanic feminist warlord. I apologize. Well, let's just restart the whole episode. Tonight's episode, 1985's Legend. An epic dark fantasy. I don't know about dark.
I don't know about dark.
I think that there's a difference between grimdark and dark, and this has some dark tones.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot, but yeah.
It's got some adult content
Yeah.
or adult tones, for sure.
So, 1985's Legend, an epic dark fantasy adventure film directed and conceived by Ridley Scott, starring Tom Cruise, Mia Sara, Tim Curry, David Brennett, Alice Playton, and Billy Barty. Also, Cork Hubbard. I don't know the other last name. I'm so sorry. We're going to move on. Before we get in the dibbly-doo, the history and all of the goods, Adam.
You going straight for me? As the new guy to this movie?
You have not seen Legend.
No. Well, now I have.
What I will tell you is Legend came out on April 18th, 1986. It was originally released in 85 in France. The budget of the film was $25 million.
It's a decent amount.
Decent money.
Mm-hmm.
Decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
The box office was $23.5 million.
Oh!
All together.
All
International,
together.
US.
That explains why this movie is like cult and hidden.
There are 3 cuts of the film.
Yeah.
There are 3 cuts of the film. We will get into the goods, but what'd you think? How'd you feel about Legend?
I'm really torn. There were definitely aspects I adored. I'm a sucker for rhyme. Like I'm just a sucker for
then
it.
you were in love with this.
Yes, I'm a sucker for nice flowing
Wordplay.
Wordplay.
I didn't know if rhyme was like a painter or an artist or something. No, because keep going.
That's
Yeah.
Busta.
Yeah. Yes.
But I really enjoy artful speech.
Yeah.
And artful writing and clever writing and all that fun jazz. This had some of that and then also terrible writing at the same time.
Are you meaning dialogue or do you mean story
Both.
structure? Okay.
Both.
Okay.
But specifically on this topic, I was talking dialogue.
Okay.
So there are definitely things I enjoyed. I loved the costumes. Visually, a lot of this was a spectacle. And that was fantastic to see.
The GOAT this year so far, Rob Bottin, coming right off John Carpenter's The Thing.
So this was
and
right after.
into Ridley Scott's Legend.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, it was awesome. It looked great. There's definitely some sound stages that they wanted to reuse as many times as humanly possible from multiple angles. I could tell. But those sets, I can see why they wanted to use them. They probably cost a lot because they were really well built. But no, ultimately, I would say I liked it, but definitely didn't love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nintendo geek. How you living, girl?
I love this movie.
Yeah?
I
Why?
love it.
Why do you love this
It's
movie?
a perfect Valentine's Day movie.
Okay. Explain.
You got your
Walk us through this one.
I don't know. It's a very lovely kind of love story in both aspects. You don't really know where the main heroine is going as far as like, is she good? Is she bad? Is she selfish? Is she oh my god, I just lost. Sacrificing, you know?
Okay.
It's like a perfect 80s fairy tale.
Okay.
That is sad that this was the best fairy tale / like romance that the 80s could give us.
Fucking lie. That's someone's opinion. That's someone's opinion.
I don't know. I think everyone just does so well in this movie as far as, you know, putting up with all the prosthetics
Oh yeah.
and really selling the characters.
Okay.
Like everyone here was very, like, they had to be almost over theatrical in order to make everything make sense with how grand the sets were and how big it looked. Like, I feel that they weren't as energetic or as, like, over the top. They would have just got swallowed by the sets.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think I think I made a comment that I'm like, was this a play before or something? Because I feel, or was everyone on stage, like old stage? I know Tom Cruise wasn't, but I know Tim Curry was stage actors, because the
Mia Sara was a stage actress before she started. This was her first movie.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously Tim Curry,
Yeah.
and then the kid Brom, what was his name? Scroll up for a second.
Of course.
Gump.
Gump.
So David Bennett, I don't know what his history is, but like,
David Bennett, I believe, was in one of Ridley Scott's first movies as well, but he also was, I believe, a stage actor. This is too new. We got to go further
I think
back.
it said that his parents were, like, his mom was a dancer.
yeah, I
He's
did
in
see
Age
that.
of the Uprising, eh?
So like he was everyone was very physical, like as if they were on a stage, and their faces were more dramatic. Obviously emphasizing a stage, because when you're on a stage, you have to make it more dramatic so people further away can see. So I felt like these people, except for Tom Cruise, were all stage actors,
Yeah.
and heavy stage actors.
Yeah.
Which was nice. I agree.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But did you like it?
No, yeah, I love this movie. Like, of all the movies that I bring to the table, I just figured this one was a nice little love story to bring in for the month of February.
Okay.
Yeah, we were struggling to find a good one. You mentioned, like, yes.
Also, Tim Curry,
You guys
first time. I can't believe, or I think it's our first time with Tim Curry. We haven't watched a Tim Curry movie. We watched a lot of Richard O'Brien.
Friend
but
of the show.
Never, ever Tim Curry.
Interesting. I've seen a lot of Tim Curry, so it's hard to judge where.
No, he wasn't in He-Man. That was somebody else.
Yeah. Tim Curry was not in He-Man.
Or
No,
not He-Man,
sorry.
Conan.
Okay. He wasn't in Conan.
No, that's
either.
Richard O'Brien.
That was
yeah,
Richard
so
O'Brien.
yeah,
Yeah.
first time with Tim Curry, so I needed to fix that.
Sure.
That makes sense. Yeah, Tim Curry's important.
Dope. So I want to talk about a little bit about ratings. Legend did not rate very well.
Oh, no, duh.
The reviews for it were relatively low, or negative. I think there is a weird time period for 80s fantasy and people who were originally reviewing movies and working at newspapers and stuff,
Okay.
who were, I want to say, someone like the old-timey Western people or the drama people. Because, like, when I look at 80s fantasy movies that came out after Legend and before Legend, they all review bombed.
Yeah.
So, there was a large group, and this is the thing, we're doing research for the show. there's a weird sort of pattern where it's like Labyrinth, The Last Unicorn, Crawl, Willow, fucking what's another one? Princess Bride, Dragon Slayer, Excalibur did well. Legend was up for awards. Bolton won an Oscar for the makeup.
Of course he won an Oscar for that makeup.
No, but I'm saying like there was just this weird reviewers aspect of it where they just, much like our time period now, we're getting kind of sick and tired of superhero shows, movies. In the 80s, they were like Highlander. There's a ton of fantasy movies that just got review bombed.
So
it's a weird crux within time. By the way, I enjoy this movie. I think it's a beautiful fairy tale flick. I feel like the story is paper thin, but I feel as someone who plays like Dungeons and Dragons and shit, and someone who likes Frazetta art and just classic fantasy art in general, this movie's fucking beautiful. Yeah. Like you can't help but go like, huh, yeah, that's a goblin. That is exactly how every goblin has been portrayed pretty much after. Yep. This is how every fae, sort of creepy fae dwarf, Children of the Forest, Game of Thrones has been portrayed after this movie. Yeah. In a way. Like you can't help but like look at Legend and go, it's not great, but also damn did it splash.
Yeah, I found that you're right, and this is what I'm talking about with the not great writing. It felt like I was watching a video format of one of the old fairy tales, from way back,
library
like
kind
the
of thing,
1600s kind of fairy tales.
Sure.
Because they were horribly structured, altered to the point of like you could barely understand what the moral of the lesson was, and that's kind of what I felt. Don't do it. Yeah.
Don't do it. Was the moral? What did I do? Don't do it.
Don't kiss the fairy.
Don't do it.
Don't betray your morals and kiss the fairy. But like, there's things like that where I couldn't quite fathom. I went back and forth with what they were trying to teach me. I knew that this was a old style fairy tale. That they were trying to teach me something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I slowly. It was during one of the later scenes where I realized, oh, this was a coming of age story for the princess.
Yeah.
That's what this was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jack had his story.
Yeah.
But not nearly as much as the princess did.
Jack kind of, he did. He went on his own personal journey of not being a hero to becoming a hero.
Yeah.
But never losing like the humbleness of his like pure spirit.
The way
sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
the way I took it, just to give my summary of what I think their journeys were, was hers was obviously a journey of adulthood. Right? Coming in, the sin that comes with adulthood. She's innocent at the beginning.
Yep.
She makes innocent sin, right?
Curiosity,
right? She doesn't do it knowingly. She doesn't do it hostilely. She's childhood innocence. And then that childhood innocence leads to a disaster, which leads to her taking
adult responsibility.
And then later on, there's that sexual tension of growing up and the sexual side of being an adult with the Lord of Darkness.
I didn't notice that.
No, you didn't. You didn't get that any sense at all.
It was suggested I could see, but to tell you the truth,
he was a gentleman. Okay,
I didn't pick up on any of that.
It was the worst. That was the clear sign to me. Like, this is the boyfriend you have to fuck up with and learn like how you find a man that treats you right, because he's a piece of fucking shit, but he's subtly about it. Like not subtle, but he's abusive. Let's put it that way. And then obviously Jack is supposed to be the good one you take to your mom. But so that's hers. Hers is adulthood and responsibility for innocence and sin and so on and so forth, and discovery of adulthood. But his is the acceptance of duty and responsibility. Because he's a man, a fey man, right? He's a man, but he's of the forest, and he lives by no rules. He's chaotic by nature, chaotic neutral, whatever. And she's like, "I'm gonna make you my prince," and he's like, "No, we can just live in the forest. Like, I just want to live in the forest." But then she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna make you do a challenge to go get my ring," but then he has to take responsibility and duty for solving the problem that he kind of caused. And solving and helping other people.
Green Knight made you enjoy this movie a little more.
Kind of, yeah.
There's a lot of references to the Green Man in this.
Like, there totally is.
Oh, yeah.
It was on the doors.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this movie, like, again, is one of those fairy tale storylines, but it getting there is a bit difficult. It's hard as a movie. I can see why it struggled.
Yeah. So personally, to build and break away and demolish everything you just said. I feel like, in a way, she leaves Jack in the end of the film almost like her innocence.
Yes.
Jack is the childlike irresponsibility and childlike freedom of going and playing in the forest. And that's why in the end of the movie, she doesn't take him with her.
That makes sense.
Right? There is
I can
this
see that
like,
version.
because that's when she wakes up and she's like, hey, we just went through some heavy shit. We need to self-reflect. Thank you for getting my ring back and waking me up from this coma.
Yes.
But we learned some stuff. I found out some stuff about myself. Oh boy.
And I found stuff out about you and your relationship to me. And
yeah. And I need to leave you in the woods.
Yeah.
And I think it shows whether Jack is running off into the sunset to never return. I can't quite remember how the other cut was, where if I think he just fades into a tree or some
This
fucking
is
thing. Like he just goes away.
This is the only cut
Interesting.
that they both don't run into the sunset together.
This is the cut.
Yeah,
So
this
the
is the
original-
one where he goes alone, where the other two they do run off together.
Original theatrical cut, they're happily ever after. This is the Ridley Scott going, no. This is a world she can't live in.
No, she recognizes that she doesn't want to change him, and kind of is like, no, you belong here.
I think that's
If
also
you-
why that's why it ends the way it does.
Yeah, it's very
Interesting.
like up to interpretation about like how the relationship ended, but like I don't think she wanted to bring him into her world where, you know, in this version she's a princess and he would have to like change his entire.
Yeah. I took. Yeah, that's fair.
It's weird, you know what I mean? Because like that's the fun thing about it. The flip side of it is to really break down into it. The theatrical cut was made for the MTV generation.
Yeah.
So the soundtrack was originally done by Jerry Goldsmith.
Huh.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah.
Howdy. But the MTV generation, the movie itself is significantly different. It is synth heavy by Tangerine Dream. They worked on Sorcerer. They have done a bunch of other movies. Tangerine Dream is a really, really great, influential.
Would I have liked more synth?
Tangerine
No,
Dream is
it
an
does
amazing,
change
like
the mood of the movie, like really different.
But would I have liked it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it would have. I think because I've seen this 3 times.
Okay.
I've seen the
Each version?
No. I've seen the director's cut. This is the one that's predominantly like known. And then there's the European cut, which is, I believe, edited differently. And then there's this one with the orchestra,
Got it.
an actual band and stuff behind it.
Just to go back to Tangerine Dream, they just got off of doing Risky Business, which was another one of
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise's like first movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
movie,
like
by the way.
that connection there.
Yeah. Listen to some Tangerine Dream, folks. It's great.
I'll play
It's
it
a
after.
ride.
Like it's very different. I guess it reminded me of how the Warriors had that very like synthy background.
Hey, you know our
track.
intro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that.
It's that kind of
Yeah.
synth.
80s synth.
Interesting.
They had scored a ton of movies back in the day. Moving forward, it just changes the complete tone and vibe and speed and the way this movie is put together, kind of thing. There is action, a little bit more sword fights sprinkled in that don't necessarily even need to be in there. So Scott cut it.
The
that's
American
not their moral,
version
right.
came off the bat like really heavy with like basically he was saying like like American audiences need a little bit more help. So there was a huge text scroll at the beginning explaining what was happening. They showed, I'm pretty
You're
sure.
all dumb. So here's the explanation of the movie because y'all aren't.
We're going to
figure
tell you
it
the
out.
movie and then you're going to watch it almost like a play. This
Yeah.
is exactly what's going to happen and you're just going to act surprised when you see
It
it.
opened with like the butchering scene right off the
Oh,
bat.
God.
It
Yeah.
shows darkness right away. Just in a very weird, like different color, and his eyes glow.
He's-
You got it a little bit in this
That
version,
green eye glow scene.
but like his nails
Yeah.
are glowing, his eyes are glowing, and it's like what the heck? So it kind of shows him right away rather than an hour in. And there was a lot more, like you said, there was a lot more fighting and a lot more physical. Like they were kissing a lot more in the beginning of the movie.
oh god.
This you didn't get that at all.
No.
they waited to the end.
It's not better. It's not necessarily worse. But once you've seen the director's cut, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck's up with this movie?" If you were to go back to the
But
original,
this is a
you would be
good
like,
cut.
"Why is it like this? Wait a minute, this isn't the movie I just watched." Kind of thing. It doesn't work.
The British or the English version is more softer, and it shows kind of like how like their relationship's more innocent. It shows her being a little bit more intelligent, with her wanting to learn the language of the animals.
Got it. Yeah.
So this is like the blend of both cuts with the original soundtrack back into it.
Okay. Sounds like it actually is probably the best version.
Yeah, he's like, this is what I wish I put out instead of doing like the two versions, because they're both good and they're right, but he's like, I regret
it's not the
rescoring
same.
it because he did do the score exactly how I wanted it.
That makes sense.
The thing is, too, is once they finished filming this film, once they had finished filming the movie, Scott went into the editing bay already asking for more money because there was parts that were like, fuck, we need more cash to do stuff. Studios himself thought A was too long and wanted to cut huge chunks of it out
Sure.
just to try to get it going, and had put a ton of pressure on Scott. So it was a lot of...
The thing is
that's why we have 3 different versions of the movie.
Yeah.
the thing is as a studio, you have to realize that their job is not to make good movies. Their
Right.
job is to make money.
Yeah.
And the truth is, they were right on this one. For them.
Yeah.
For them, because they didn't make their money. They lost money.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. They, for their goals and their intent, made the right decision. For us, we got the shaft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the film was initially being developed, Scott was working on The Duelist in France, inspired by Brothers Grimm's fairy tales and other poetry of Europe folklore.
That makes sense.
He had worked through different movies and always wanted to do a fairy tale and chugging through different books. Do you know the one that they were going to work on?
Sorry?
The book that they were going to work on?
The book.
Did you like zone out when I was talking?
Sorry.
I looked over and you're looking at the bookshelf.
No,
You fucking no. So I read the
The
book.
drugs are kicking in.
Are you
I read
talking
I read
about-
the book for this movie.
There's a so there is
I
a book.
didn't know
No,
that.
I read The Hobbit, but I figured it would help. It didn't. It didn't
No,
help
I
at
know
all.
He did go with.
It didn't at all. So realistically,
I have it right
Scott fucking combed through a bunch of Brothers Grimm and European folklore while
Yeah,
working on this movie. He was in production with Aliens. Aliens was a huge success, and studios were practically throwing money at him to do whatever he wanted.
Yep.
At that time, he was working on pre-production of Dune. Welcome back, Raised by Spoilers.
Yeah.
Before Scott walked away, it's all connected.
Dune, check it out, past
It's all-
episode.
yeah, there it is. That's a plug. Love it. Before he walked away from the production of Dune, giving it to David Lynch. And then finally, frustrated, he came back to the idea of a mythology fairy story.
Interesting. So this was completely written for this movie.
Yes.
Doesn't exist outside of this movie.
No,
Yep.
he wanted to write like a modern fairy tale, and he wanted it because rather than try to reskin like an old fairy tale that already existed, like from the Brothers Grimm, he wanted something like completely original. And he did gain inspiration from the 1946 Beauty and the Beast, as far as Snow White, Fantasia, and also Bambi.
Mm.
And then as he was looking at different like modern like fairy tales that people had written, he came across the person who actually he kept to write the screenplay, and I'm just trying to find where that went. I just had it up. Oh, William Hortzberg.
That's the writer?
Yeah, he discovered several books written by him, and then basically he had done a couple low budget movies. So he's like, by the screenplay.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, he was the writer of the screenplay. And there was no original book, but he got a guy who does fairy tale books to go write, who's done a few screenplays.
Let's work on some stuff together.
Let's work on something.
Yep.
You clearly
Yeah.
got the right eye for this, or the right mind for this.
Yeah, they talked for a few weeks, and I think it went through 15 rewrites.
You know, I give it credit. This, and that's what I was talking about. Where I asked, was this our book or a play? Like, was this a pre-existing world? Because I felt there was a lot of world building.
He didn't want to have to adapt anything. He wanted to just go in and
Yeah.
build.
That makes sense. But it just, there's a lot of things that it felt like a lot of world building. A great example of that, I think the most obvious example, there's plenty of it, but one of them was the different watches. Like, let's all sync up our watches. And they all kind of pull out different watches with different like time measurements and different ideas. And they just, it's 3 bubbles past a hair. And you literally look at this guy, and the clock he's using is a globe with water with bubbles in it. And on, etched into one section of the circle is a rabbit. A hare. Yeah. And I went, oh, wow. Which is kind of cool. But everyone else was using, one guy had a stopwatch. I think the other 2 guys had stopwatches. So it set up this world that's why I sat there and went, this clearly someone thought this through.
Yeah.
Or at least made something up on the fly, but was thinking about a world when they thought it up and did a good job.
Yeah.
I'd say.
I think that's just Ridley Scott in general. He wants everything to really have purpose. It's like Del Toro with the props. Each character that's a main character will have a prop.
Yeah.
If you look at another fantasy movie that I can think of is Pan's Labyrinth, right? There's the watch, the glasses. I think there's a ribbon, the bag. Each main character, and as soon as they lose their prop, I think that's when they die.
Is that usually how it's tied together?
Del Toro wise.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But like he specifically writes characters with an item.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you watch some of Del Toro's movies, or most of Del Toro's movies, they have a singular item that only that character in the movie has.
I've watched a lot of Del Toro, but I've never put that together, if that is a thing.
It's weird hyperfixation, but that's just how he writes his screenplays and his character backstory stuff. So let's get this show going. Rob Bottin.
Yeah.
Special effects, props, the world, the goblins. Can we talk about some of the things we loved about this before we get into the whole plot of the movie and all of the other questions in the doobly-doos?
Oh my God. I loved those goblins. First of all,
the pigman, the goblin.
Actually, the pigman was the least of my favorites.
Oh, I loved him. He was
Pox.
Pox, yeah, is that his name?
Okay.
Pox and Blix.
Fair enough. But there is I really loved them because they each had their own character. And it did feel like I was watching a version of The Hobbit whenever I was watching those 3 on scene.
Yeah, it really, as soon as we went to the cabin, or the little cottage nook thing where she's stealing biscuits and shit, I'm like,
from the already poor people.
I would have watched like an 80s Hobbit.
Yeah.
I would have watched the live action if Ridley Scott was to do this kind of budget.
Yeah.
Clearly they needed to shoot outside, but
they had a lot of little great scenes with them. Obviously the masks, the outfit, the costumes were just top notch.
Yeah.
I will give out my favorite one later on.
Oh yeah.
Our eyebrows, but they were really good. I really enjoyed the simplicity of, like, there's one scene that I just adored where with the unicorn horn, he lit the other one's butt on fire.
Yep.
And he dumped his butt in like the soup bowl.
Yeah.
And the steam and everything.
And the steam came out.
It's cartoony.
It was cartoony.
Yeah.
But it also confused me because I was like, who is this movie for? They literally froze people over, froze a baby over in its carriage, and then we're like, "Ooh, goblins having fun with a magical unicorn." I'm like, who is this for?
In an
But I loved it.
in an original script, I believe Lily sleeps with darkness.
Yeah, they
And they had you can't fuck the bad guy kind of thing and have her be redeemable in the eyes of the audience.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
wasn't gonna be like a very nice scene either. It was gonna be like
a Count Drogo.
Yeah,
scene.
like I don't know. I heard it was gonna be like, like I don't know. It would have been weird. Also, she was like a teenager in this too, so it would have been like, is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in 1984
they didn't care about that.
was asking that out loud.
No.
They might have been thinking it at some point, but absolutely not asking it, unfortunately.
The thing is,
that's
it's
not
clearly implied,
validating anything.
It's clearly implied that it was all
Seduce.
very sexual and seduce and seduction and all that fun jazz. All those nice abs of the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
Huge abs. But it's clear, and I don't think I think the sex scene would have been too far.
Yeah.
That was like right off the bat in like one of the first writings. It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. I think I've said here before where I think sex scenes, rape scenes, like horrible acts of horridness are acceptable to put in art as long as it is needed for the purpose of the plot, character, whatever.
Sure.
As a part of the art. this would have been too. This is one of those scenarios where no, you didn't need that scene.
Yeah, because it wasn't with her character, because she was like, she never really like succumbed to the dark side. She was always like, no, fuck you.
Well, I think the whole crux of the film too is she's dipping a toe.
Yes.
She's dipping a toe. She's dipping a toe. She's dipping a toe. And now it's less of a toe. Now her whole foot's in water as she keeps progressing through the movie.
Yeah. Well, this is that adulthood thing where she was discovering the darkness of the freedom of adulthood, drugs, sex, whatever the darkness that is, in this case, the literal sexual and alcohol, right? There's giant things of wine. So all these corruptions, and that's what she was discovering. Again, I don't think that the sexual thing was needed. It was strongly enough implied that it was not required.
At one point in the movie, it's flower vases full of dark liquid that we're just assuming is wine. They're just giant
look
cups.
How big his hands
It
were.
was so ridiculous and awesome.
It does make sense based on how big he was.
Yeah, I think
it does.
With his costume on, he was 7'3".
Wow. Did he have... Okay, they never showed his bottom half and his top half in the same scene.
Okay.
Do we know...
We get some wide shots. I just don't think it's...
No,
I think it's
runs.
the fur pants.
He has that one scene where he's running.
Yeah, but I don't remember seeing his legs all that much.
He was full, like, going.
Was he hooves and all?
Yeah.
Tim Curry, it would take 6 hours to get in the double makeup.
Yeah.
The horns weighed, I think, 6 pounds or something like that in each horn.
Were those like strapped to his neck or something?
They were
How
strapped
did they not,
to
like...
his neck and then his back, and he ended up hurting his neck.
Sure.
And they had to film from certain angles because at one point he had to wear like a brace.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened with that was they figured out a rig, basically, because he did strain his neck because it was going forward. So they hollowed out the horns and made like a harness go down his back.
That makes sense.
But they had to film other like him in the chair, but not really showing him.
Yeah.
Because at one point he got so I don't know if it was like claustrophobia. He ripped off the makeup and like ripped his skin.
Oh.
So he Ridley Scott's like, hey, you're not being in makeup for a while, so we're just gonna shoot around you, and that ended up making the final cut because it kind of built up that tension of like you only hear his voice and like see his hands.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked in the end, but he's like, holy fuck, are you okay?
He would have to submerge himself in solution every day for an hour to get the makeup off.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So a bath
That's
for
a lot
an
of
hour
spirit gum.
every day to get the spirit gum off.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
I think I'd prefer being lathered in KY jelly.
I will say though, the special effects and the props of it though hold the fuck up with how they look versus it being CGI. There's even the classic scene where we get the Will-o'-the-Wisp pixie, and you're like, how did they fucking do that? And it's literally, there's an interview with Scott saying like it would have cost $100,000 or some freaking thing for CGI for just this, for the amount of scenes they want to use for this little fairy to be flying around. And he's like, it's a fishing line and a light bulb. It's just a small light bulb and a battery on fishing line. We're just dangling it and getting it to where we need to go, and it costs nothing.
See,
so there's that weird. Sorry, go ahead.
He's right. You had mentioned like Ridley Scott made the interview where he said, that would have cost me, X number thousands of dollars to do. And all I had to do was string. The thing is, you can't get away with the string anymore.
No, because cameras are too good.
Cameras are too good.
Yeah.
Cameras are too good.
And I found that funny because when we were watching this, obviously we've got, we're watching a 4K TV soundbar and AI to stretch this thing to the 4K.
I think that's the difference between the Blu-ray and the digital though, is it's like compressed.
Oh yeah, it is.
Right.
But it's also, even the Blu-ray is never meant to go to 4K. They were always 1080.
True.
So we were watching a 1080 on a 4K TV.
Sure.
So there's AI trying to figure shit out. And I think it made the speckles of glitter that were meant to just be sort of magical glitter in slight, not slight, but you're not supposed to look, there's a
one
square
pixel
of glitter. Like you can see the
one whole pixel.
Yeah. So you could see the glitter and you're like, okay, that kind of took away from the magic of it a bit. So yeah, there are some times where especially these movies were designed and you could get away with things like that back then that you can't do now. And that's why they're like, oh, it costs so much now. I'm like, well, yeah, it does because your camera is so goddamn good.
It's picking everything up.
Yeah.
And that's just
I'll see that fish line.
Yeah, you would. It's funny with what they can try to get away with or what used to work. now. I think the interesting thing with the glitter is once Lily enters the forest, that's when the glitter is on.
Which made me think, do you think this is all like a dream, air quotes? Maybe not a dream, but this never actually happened in her life. That
maybe.
She went off,
Maybe.
had this experience, maybe not a drug or anything like that. But
You
just
ever
like,
do just mushrooms in the woods is what you're trying to say? Go chase Tom Cruise around?
I have. But maybe not the Tom Cruise part.
Chasing Tom Cruise with mushrooms in the woods. Jesus Christ.
Well, that's why the cottage mom was basically like, don't go into the toadstool circles, like don't get trapped by the fae.
Yeah. But do you think like this didn't really happen? That there's a version of this that's she went on a magical mystery tour, came back, but it was all just real life, and she just had human experiences. This is sort of a fairy tale of life rather than an actual tale of fact.
I honestly don't know because I don't want to really build too much of the
World
fan fiction and the world behind it. But I do see the aspect of her sneaking away out of the castle and always going to the woods and the escapism of running from her troubles and her duties, because the first entrance we get is the
stealing
peasant
from already poor people.
stealing from already poor people and them giving it to her because it's like your king owns the land, and if we say no to you, you'll kill us.
Yeah.
You'll just kill us.
Jeez.
You'll just kill us. So please don't. We're going to be nice to you. I love you like a mother. Please don't kill us. Is sort of the weird vibe of the monarchy here. But there's also this weird sort of escapism of, like, Labyrinth does it best. Mm-hmm. This is a girl who doesn't want to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And she's running from her problems. And you can already kind of sort of tell with how she is coy and playful and mischievous that she has eluded the guards. She has climbed out the secret entrance of the castle. Mm-hmm. This is the fucking
one jump ahead of the law, man.
8,000th time the palace guards are going to come get her on the road to be like, hey, it's not safe out here. You shouldn't be doing this and blah, blah, blah. When your dad's going to hear about, or when the king's going to hear about it.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not going to tell the king because that makes the guards look bad. So she keeps getting away with it. Because,
right. And then there's this whole, the peasant talk, or the woman in the lumberjack cabin or whatever being like, hey, like, you should be getting married. You should be like going to school. You should be taking up your responsibilities.
Yeah.
And there's those childlike, playful ideas of, well, maybe for another day.
Yeah.
I'm going to just go run through the forest kind of thing.
Yep.
So it is
that's
interesting.
tomorrow.
That is tomorrow. And that's where I think a lot of this, like, responsibility crux of this movie kind of leans on, even though she kind of looks at the camera a couple times and says, you're not going to tell me what to fucking do. And then does things anyway, and then there's terrible consequences.
Well, that's like the selfish aspect, where it's like you can take that as her just being like, well, I'm the princess. I can get away with whatever I want to get away with.
So I don't really know, to answer your question, if it is just a dream.
Yeah. It's kind of irrelevant.
It's kind
of irrelevant.
It's not that it's irrelevant, because it is a good, like, hypothetical.
Yeah.
It is a good, like, did they go swimming? She drowned. Jack's trying to find the ring that she threw in the thing, and
who
like,
knows?
where are we at? A very interesting thing is... All right, I hate using that. The woods.
Okay.
The woods were built on the 007 soundstage.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Ridley Scott built the woods.
That was all practical.
Yeah.
They didn't film it outside at all.
I told you that.
Actually,
I know you told me that.
there is one scene.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the audience.
Right. Good point.
We're podcasting.
Good point.
Thanks, Adam.
You're right. You told me that while we were watching it.
Welcome to Raised by Spoilers. I told you that while we were watching it. Friends, the 007 soundstage burnt down 16 weeks into production. Ridley Scott lost a fuckload of money because they had to rebuild or reuse shots that they had. There's a reason why this movie is half finished.
So that's why I said they kept reusing certain stages.
The movie's half finished because they lost half the movie. Amanda.
Well, actually.
Oh, my God.
The unicorn scene where they first go up and they introduce the unicorns, that is filmed in a garden on the property, because that was like the last little bit they needed to film. So it being so lush and green there made sense because that was actually like in a garden.
I also
Because
think
So you're a fucking liar.
I also think
no,
it's
'cause
You
the
threw me
forest-
under the bus in front of
No,
everyone
no.
on the podcast. I'm just
no, the
tossed you.
forest, the big forest.
Nobody
scene,
tosses a dwarf.
I think where they meet and like the big forest scenes and like the winter forest scenes and them doing all that was actually on the soundstage. Like they brought in real plants and real animals, but it was just that one scene with the 2 unicorns like in the river. I think
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a uniquely different scene. I do have a question though.
uniquely. I can't know.
I think they used the same
unicornally.
I think they used the footage for the director's cut of the Blade Runner film for when the unicorn is running through the woods. Also, there was a mirror set up around the soundstage to reflect light to give it a little bit more of a natural look. And every morning the pigeons would fly into it and they would make a terrible thud sound. Pigeons would constantly shit on everything and scare crew members as they
should be
would
laughing
be
at that.
anywhere. But you would hear just the rattling of a drum
Ka-chung.
and it would be pigeons flying into the mirrors.
But apparently they got out of when it caught fire.
Thank goodness.
That's what I'm
No pigeons were harmed. No pigeons were physically harmed.
The crew,
God.
the crew were on lunch, so no one was really
Oh, so
in
it
there.
burned down in the middle of a work day.
Yeah. Which Ridley Scott was like, it's a good thing because people would have been up in the rafters.
Yeah.
And that's where like all the flames.
The smoke, they would have passed out
Yeah.
immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What's
What's the question?
Speaking of stages, when did they stop using asbestos as fake snow?
I don't know.
Because there was a lot of snow in this.
a lot of snow, and it's
86.
popcorn peanuts at one point.
What was it? I didn't notice the granulars being that big.
Well, I don't think it was asbestos.
I don't know. I know that they used asbestos as fake snow in some older movies. I
don't know
Those
about
might have been
that.
like the
Oh, my-
70s,
Maybe even the
60s.
60s.
Yeah,
This I am not quite
I
sure.
don't know if they. I think they fixed that in the 80s, but I'm not sure how long.
Wizard of Oz had it.
See, yeah, I just don't know how.
Wizard of Oz had asbestos snow.
Yeah, it was very
The
common.
product was manufactured by National Tinsel Manufacturing, was sold in the 40s and 50s. The brand actually contains asbestos.
So okay, so it was sold in the 40s and 50s, so it probably was out by now, by the 80s.
Yeah. But yeah, it was used up into like the late 50s and probably more because, people just kept that stuff around. So it was all just asbestos.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so that was my first thought. I was like, "Oh shit, when did that practice end?" Because it was a lot of fake snow.
Yeah, literally it says asbestos pure white fireproof snow.
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
that's dark.
Jeez.
I just broke Rich. We're just gonna
But I
zoom in.
think
Just get a nice.
Ladies and
nice-
gentlemen, let's get into the plot. Welcome to the Forest of Fae in Legends. Lily, a very beautiful Mia Sarah before Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's what she was.
That's where she's from.
couldn't quite pin
know
it.
you. I know. Is out for a wonderful day in the woods. We'll call them the Royal Woods because of the area, which is thick of fae, inspired by Yosemite National Park with these giant 30, 40, or 60-foot old trees. Out for a lovely day to play with Tom Cruise as Jack, our forest-dwelling half-elf boy or something. What do we all think?
He's described as a hermit.
Yeah.
I think he's a human
Okay.
who. He's the bridge between humans and the Fae.
And the Fae. Yeah.
But I think he's human, but raised by the forest.
Okay. I like it. A little Mowgli syndrome, a Tarzan, even if you will.
Tarzan-y Mowgli
Yeah,
kind of thing.
sure.
Going. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Jack, the role, originally by Tom Cruise, was cast and shipped around, passed through with Johnny Depp,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Robert Downey Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
very young, right?
Is he the same age as them? Interesting.
And Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey would have been wild.
I want to let. I've been sitting on this because I wanted reactions and thoughts. Young Johnny Depp, I believe, had done Nightmare on Elm Street.
I think so.
Yeah, he was really young when he did Nightmare.
But this
Because that was one of his first movies. Yeah, Nightmare.
He would make sense, I think. I don't think he would have been too bad.
I think he would have been a little bit more
really
playful.
good.
I think he would have been a better Jack than
I think so too.
Tom Cruise. I think Robert Downey Jr. was just young and good looking at the time, and
Yeah.
he was in a lot of magazines, and they were trying to cast a big name to get that audience in.
Yeah.
Those young ladies and that MTV generation. The flip side of Johnny Depp is also that MTV generation. Jim Carrey, funny, not necessarily a theater actor, but I think he was cheap. I think Tom Cruise at the time, having not done a ton of movies, wasn't the most expensive part of the movie.
No,
Got
and he didn't want to cut his hair.
Okay.
So and the character needed long hair in the script, so that's why
do you
they like that hair. That's his actual hair.
Oh yeah, I know. I can.
Yeah. He didn't want to cut it, so he's like, I would love to be in this movie, but I want to keep my long hair. They're like, perfect. We want
Johnny
you
Depp
to
would have
have
been like, I can have my long hair too.
Johnny Depp at the time didn't have long hair.
Yeah, they all had short hair except for Tom Cruise.
Got it.
And
So it would
then
have
they
been
made him-
natural versus wearing a wig and losing it.
Yeah, I do think that Depp would have been a better for this role.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that. Not Ace Ventura. What the fuck's his name? Jim Carrey. Would have been not good for this role.
That's
I think he would have made it really funny.
I
that
don't
where
know.
The humor would have came in, I think.
I honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't watch enough young Jim Carrey, like 1985 Jim Carrey
Not much has
movies
changed.
or stuff. So I don't know how he would.
You have to remember, he was part-time comedian too.
He was.
So you can expect that kind of thing from him,
Yeah, I think they would have put more humor in the script for him.
which I don't think would have been good.
Yeah.
Scott, being a fan of Rocky Horror Picture Show, considered Richard O'Brien to play Meg Mucklebones, the witch or the swamp troll.
Oh yeah.
And rewatching.
Was it a swamp troll or was it a hag witch?
I will call it a hag witch. I'll split the difference with you.
Yeah.
Wanted Richard O'Brien to play Meg Mucklebones, but rewatching Rocky Horror, found Tim Curry and thought that is the perfect version to play Darkness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the
the
trivia.
thing.
That's the trivia for casting.
Honestly, he's right. Like Curry was a perfect choice for this role where he oozes this darkness
And charisma.
and charisma
Yeah.
and sexual tension.
It's a lot of
That's
sexual
exactly
tension.
what he needed. Yeah.
He rides those three tight wires perfectly, and that's what Tim Curry does perfectly. And honestly, he was the best for the role. He did it so well that even I might have been corrupted towards him.
Well, just that laugh, you can't beat that because like he's such a big like voice for he really filled in the character.
Oh, he honestly, it was a beautiful performance. I do feel like a bit of the performance was lost because of the makeup staunching his
Yeah.
face. But
He couldn't move his fucking eyebrows.
I know.
What do you mean? You feel like some of it was lost. Yeah, it was his lower jaw and his lips. That's all he could move.
Yeah, totally true.
He couldn't even turn his neck.
Yeah,
What do you
'cause
mean?
it was
He had the
all-
Batman syndrome.
Yeah, because that was all a big like prosthetic chest. too.
All of
Yeah.
it.
No, Tim Curry, there was no other choice. I'm sorry, there just wasn't. You needed that evilness, charisma, and sexual tension all in one character, and he's the only one I've ever seen in any movie be able to pull those off without feeling disgusted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without feeling like I feel disgusting for being involved in it.
He's a bad guy, but a fun bad guy.
Tim Curry's performance as Darkness was ranked by Entertainment Weekly as the best performance in a bad movie.
I'll give him that. That's fair. That's fair, guys. That's fair.
Not saying this is I enjoy. I know there's holes, but it's more of a visual experience than like a story.
Yeah.
In a way, just how pretty
Yeah,
it
this is a very much a visual experience. It's flipping through. It's the live action storybook, not necessarily fairy tale as much as it's just a live action storybook.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where it's like a Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
You see it, watch it. There's a lot of layers here. There's a lot of stuff. It's very cluttered. It's a very lived-in space. We get forest elves. We get will-o'-the-wisps. We get dwarves. We get all kinds of crazy fey creatures.
Yep.
There's that wonderful scene where the unicorn is first touched. and it freaks out, and we get these unicorns running, and it's almost in a weird sort of way. And I'm having a hard time with the plot for this one because there is just so much that sort of happens, and it's like just describing paintings. We're just describing paintings as much as it's like the story is so thin. The devil wants to kill all the unicorns. That way darkness will reign, and then he can kind of shape the world and rule.
Yeah.
And he's looking for a bride.
Yeah.
Singles in your neighborhood. Hot, goth, and covered in KY. Where are you at? That is this movie.
And Jack is basically the titular physical hero that has to show up and save the day physically. He is not necessarily the one to save the day.
Right.
But he is the one to be the through line to saving the day for us.
Yeah.
Right.
He definitely assists and like does the final blow, but
sets up a very specific mathematic light puzzle
yeah,
through the entire dungeon.
Yeah. But
yeah.
and
like with serving trays.
also though, it feels like without like I gotta take a breath here. I'm sorry. Within this plot of the film, because there's lack of plot, this for me to even describe and kind of walk us through this film, there is so much playfulness. There is so much. I'd argue the scenes feel 20 minutes too long. Each scene feels 20 minutes too long, but also what you get from it feels worth it.
Yes.
Some of these wide pull back like rig shots, or if it's a steady cam on a board where they're running through the dungeon and you move through like the skeleton's rib cage, the door slams, we're going through chains, and then all of a sudden they come around the corner.
Yeah.
And you see all of these dwarfs and the children of the forest and Jack trying to catch their breath, and we just come ripping around a corner.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to find the dungeon. And it's like, Jack looks at the camera and goes, we're in the fucking dungeon, brother. We're in the fucking dungeon.
It's funny
like,
because I realized,
whoa!
I sat there and I went, my only thought was, we need to find the dungeon. I'm like, wait, hold on. They weren't in the dungeon. They were in the kitchen.
That's the kitchen, yeah. Which is even scarier. And that's the thing where it's like, this film is very much a painting. Ridley Scott does that so well. The Duelist, Alien, Blade Runner. You can pause it and just be like, hang on a second.
So
just look. Look at what's going on environmentally storytelling. These giant serving plates, or these are just normal plates for him.
Yeah.
Right? These half-orc
everything
leather
was
daddies.
Bigger than it needed to be.
Yeah, these half-orc leather daddies, these Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack the Giant Killer, like sort of callbacks to other fantasies, fairy tales and fantasies. All of it. There's just so much going on in this fucking movie.
Well, the big thing, going back to this scene with the unicorn, right from the get-go, when it's like showing the unicorns and they're all peaceful and they're playing around, it's very reminiscent of like their relationship, like carefree. And then as soon as the unicorn like
Lily snaps that horn off the horse.
Well, when the male, because it's a male unicorn that gets attacked.
Yeah.
And then he, they
them pronouns.
Then it immediately is like, oh, well, go fetch my ring. And then he jumps in, and that's when stuff is simultaneously happening with the goblins chasing after the unicorns. And it goes now to him, and it's flashing between him and the stallion, like just struggling, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has that great scene of everything is starting to slowly turn into a blizzard, but you're not really noticing it right away. And then it's him breaking against the ice at the same time that the unicorn is like dying.
Yes.
And it's pretty much as soon as his arm goes up in the ice, they have the horn. And that's like the
that is a good shot.
Yeah,
that is a good shot, and I do love that the unicorn's curse and the whole Feywild, like it's forbidden, and you're supposed to know, and what do you mean you don't know? And then the world freezes over.
Yeah.
Well, he gets
escalates pretty quick, but I love that.
He gives her shit because this is a known thing, but he forgets that she isn't part of that
old
world,
old religions,
right?
Old riddles, and old
rhymes.
Wait,
you don't know you have to do your taxes as an adult?
Yeah.
These are just a thing you have to do. It is against the law. It is a crime to just not do them. Everyone knows to do them and how to do them. Apparently, we have software for it, but you have to know to do it. Unless someone tells you, you don't.
Yeah, it's
you
like
don't
the
know to
Alice
do
in
it.
Wonderland thing with like the Queen of Hearts.
I'll
Like,
tell you right now, Jack's never paid taxes a day in his fucking life.
Well, the government's after.
Oh, they're coming. Well, yeah, his daughter's there.
But I think you're right. Where the unicorn clearly mimics aspects where the unicorn is the Princess Lily's goodness. I don't want to say innocence. I would say goodness.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the Lord of Darkness is her evilness, and those two are a battle over her. That's what this whole story is about: is those two battling over the innocence, the kindness of a unicorn.
Well, even her ring showed it because it was half like chrome, half.
Chekhov's ring.
Chekhov's
Yeah.
ring. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's what I mean. This movie's so visual, and I think
There's
it tells
a lot
us
of layers.
Yeah, it tells a very good fairy tale story, but you have to dig into it. I can see why most people who are there to watch the Marvels blow shit up with big punchy are not going to be into this.
Well, I mean, that just once again shows how up Ridley Scott's own ass Ridley Scott is. And as people who like movies, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't talk shit. I'm just like, yep, he's a great. Great.
I'll kiss
Give
his
me another
butthole.
one.
I'll kiss his butthole.
Give me another one. Gladiator's the same way. Cool. The Napoleon, too long, but probably the same way. Great. Let's
Keep
go.
going.
Give me more weird, long, dragged out, beautiful movies to look at.
I probably, as my youth, would have hated this movie.
100%.
But over the course of my life, I don't know. I love my A24 films, and
Yeah.
this totally fits into that category.
A very expensive one.
Yeah.
But also, you've played a lot of role-playing games.
Yeah.
You've done Pathfinder. You've even played like the video games nowadays. The vidges. I think this, like, once again, we kind of circle back, but like, this has inspired so much.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not just Tim Curry
did this inspire a lot, or was this inspired by those same things that coincidentally tied up? Because this is after the Satanic Panic. This is after D&D became big.
This is during.
During it.
This is during. Oh, that's even worse.
This is during. This is 85. This is in the middle of it.
All right. I listen. I've always hated the Satanic Panic. I thought that's just humans being stupid.
Sure. It's
Control. You know what? For the first time, I understand that if I thought my daughter went to see Tim Curry and looked like that and had and was impacted by that, I might think she's cursed and gonna like go to the dark side.
That's fair.
Because I'm struggling.
That's
with
fair.
It.
That's fair.
No, just kidding.
You're speaking truths.
But okay. I didn't know it was right at the same time. I guess it kind of makes sense. But goblins, all those things, they were kind of invented prior to this. Based on the age of this movie, I don't think this inspired the things we know as like the fantasy and fake creatures. I think this was strongly inspired by. I think it's the other way around. I'm just assuming, just based on timing and things like that. Am I out to lunch here? Am I crazy?
I think you might be a little crazy on that one. I just think there's so many iconic scenes.
Oh yeah.
And like, name a green witch other than Wizard of Oz.
Well, I can't.
Do you know what I mean, though? And then but like that version.
Yeah, but
that,
green
like,
hags have been around long before.
I am not saying Ridley Scott created the concept of witchcraft. I am saying Ridley Scott created the concept of witchcraft. No, but what I mean is, what I honestly mean to say is like,
Ridley Scott an anagram?
Just, oh my God. But what I mean is like that visual look, right? Like Tim Curry as the devil went on from 1985 to look like that's just what the devil looked like until you get to John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Also, the devil in South Park definitely looks like.
Oh, buddy. We got a good laugh. We got a good one for you.
Okay.
The devil in South Park does sort
just
of.
like the big deep voice.
Like it just pop culture wise.
I didn't think that version of the devil. I'm pretty sure that existed prior.
He
to
wanted
this
to
movie.
do something different. Like he wanted, like you said, he wanted like, you know, evil but sexy. And I think before this, the devil was always portrayed just as evil and gross, and like that is a bad thing. Where this is like, oh, maybe not.
Maybe I could lick those abs.
Maybe I'll eat cheese off of him.
Yeah, apparently going back to the scene that was cut or never written was apparently it was supposed to be like a weird like sexual scene with a lot of like licking each other. that was in the script.
We don't do fan fiction here, Amanda.
No, that was
Okay.
like actual.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they're like, this is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, it was never written, but you wrote it.
I mean, I could find it.
You don't need to find. You don't need to find it.
You have it on your phone because you saved a copy of your novella.
Yes.
So, instead of plot, let's do highlights of shit we liked.
Yeah.
Just because this is a one that I don't feel like needs a plot. I loved the dance number with the dress.
That was great.
I did like how they did that. I liked how they did it practically, even though it was a woman in a sock. But I appreciated it. I felt like it went on a little too long, like I'm talking about, but also it was beautiful and they choreographed it. So fuck it, do the whole dance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do
was
it.
really
We got the
well
room.
done.
Just do it.
I think what they needed to do to set the stage for that properly, because obviously there's a whole lot of the fuck is going on until right at the end.
When you're like, oh,
This is the transition. This is a metaphor for her transition.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they needed to show the transition in more stages along the way until eventually she didn't realize, like, someone was painting color on her eyes, someone was doing this, and then eventually there's the last scene where she turns around, she's in the whole getup, and you go, like you almost needed not a montage, like a dance montage. I don't know how to.
No, you're right, and I think you're right, but
the suit up, the black liner,
the black line, like the tears, the makeup, right. Her makeup's running, she's crying.
The little cherub statues to just turn into makeup artists.
Weird.
It was weird, but it was cool, and I'm gonna definitely use that. Like, yeah.
It was strange. I think it was an interesting scene that I hated at first. I thought, what the fuck is this? What's going on here?
Yeah.
This is taking too long.
Yeah.
But by the end, I got the point, and I thought that mattered, but I do think they could have done it a bit cleaner.
I like that it was like a waltz of
I don't
her,
know
like,
how.
being freaked out, and then because I think he didn't even need the dress. Like she was sold on the necklace.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm done. This is it. Take me now.
Take me.
But
Diamonds.
she was really hesitant and kind of like freaked out of the dress at first, and then it kind of like lured her in, and then she just kind of like succumbed to it.
Yeah.
And her letting go was when it finally like got her, and then it was cut really cool too.
Get real closer for a second. Do you know why she got into that dress? It went down below her fucking belly button.
It was a really pretty dress, I will say.
It was a pretty button.
As far as like a wedding dress goes, with like the big cowl.
Yeah. I mean, cowl was a bit much, but the rest of the dress was very lovely.
Adam over here talking shit. He's got a problem with fucking Dracula. Destroying darkness with daylight. The dungeon.
Wow, we just really jumped to the end, huh?
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about our favorite little things. Come on.
Didn't ask.
Okay.
So, anyway, destroying darkness with daylight. I don't fucking care. No. What did you guys all think? Granted, I wasn't gonna do this. Wasn't eyebrows. This was just kind of like we're gonna do.
No, I think this is a great talk about scenes and a
plot,
little.
yeah.
I think this is good to talk about, like a character growth. That's good.
Sure.
I very much liked her and her acting with regards to
Lily, right?
Lily. Yeah, sorry, Lily. With regards to her transformation in her interactions with the darkness.
Okay.
Because she was this flip-floppy emotional wreck. And I thought at first, this is terrible acting. They didn't know what they wanted.
She killed the last unicorn.
Yeah.
You'd be a wreck.
Yeah.
But she's tempted constantly back and forth. And because of the way she's acted in the past, I can never tell, is she going to fall for this? Is she not? And while I know, because I know stories, I know she's not going to fall for it.
Yeah.
But it did okay, that'd be interesting. I thought that they did that conversation piece, that scene with the darkness and her really well. You just want me to sit down on the chair?
What was up with the chair? Like, I get
was
that
going
she's
to like absorb her or like try to control her, and like she seemed
because the chair had like bubbles and teeth.
It looked like it was gonna grab her if she sat down, and she it showed her looking and seeing that, and she's like, "You're just trying to like mess with me now." Like,
pretty sure I've seen that in a hentai before. No, I think it was a metaphor for his control over her.
Yeah.
I think all the chair was gross, it was filthy, it was wrong, and just like him. and it was a metaphor for her succumbing to him.
So
also, him or her doing what he's asking.
Yeah.
And then she realizing that she has the power in the situation.
well, she controls global warming.
Oh, yeah, she does.
So obviously she does.
That's funny.
But it was funny seeing him kind of lose his cool for a minute and then just composing and being like, I value you as a person. Please just listen to me.
Trying to make
I
this
will
work.
do anything for you. And I'm like, oh, he's great. And then like, oh, what was it earlier? I said he was like a feminist because he's like, no, I'm not a barbarian. I'm not just going to go kidnap her. Like, I want this to work.
Well, the goblins say that the only unicorn left is a female.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
he's like, you idiots, they can make more.
No. Oh, it's just a female. They don't have any thought. They don't have any power. And he's like, only the power of creation. And I'm like,
Yeah.
see, he's not bad. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah. But to me, that's the very much sin of the, you know, in real life, the abusive boyfriend, the abusive person who's like, you're very pretty, but don't you fucking leave my house and let me check your phone every day because I do not. Like, yeah, it's clearly an abusive relationship, but he's trying to be like, yes, honey, what would you like? Oh, you don't like the thing I like? Fuck!
Yeah, I like. It's funny that he blew up at the end, and then she was like, "Gotcha."
Yeah, she
and
knows.
then she was like, "But I want to kill the unicorn." Then he did. We all did like the ee moment where he was just so excited.
We melted off the couch.
because he does that slow pan over, just like, and then just gets into his evil laugh.
He does that like Tim Curry kind of.
Yeah, and then we all just were
Awful.
like,
Yeah, it was great. I love that whole scene. That was probably the best part of the whole movie.
yeah. She really showed like she's a really good actor there.
Yeah.
I argue, more money and an extra 20 minutes to this film.
No.
And I'd say you show what her home life is like.
Oh,
And you're dealing with the dad trying to marry her off and her running away to the forest.
yeah,
and that
that's
is
what you don't
the
see.
fat
Yeah.
prince who is like, I want you for blah, 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 blah. And he is not good enough. And she loves Jack. And then it is the reflection of Tim Curry and her understanding how to not manipulate these men, but dealing with this on a social
Another
scale.
suitor for the princess.
Right. Another suitor for the princess.
Yeah. No, okay. I
That
can
is
see
my
that.
20-minute, maybe not 20, maybe 10, but a scene in like, she has everything. She has those jewels in her room. She has blah, 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 these comforts.
Yeah.
And then she's at
doesn't
the
have
age where her dad
self-strength
is
and-
trying to get rid of her and she just wants the freedom. And then that freedom leads right back to a cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
she sees.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only
I
thing
can
I
see
would,
that.
I would
Yeah.
add to the movie is the bird or the cage
And
conundrum.
I think that would also help solidify, because remember I was talking about during the movie, I was very confused to who the main character was. Was it Jack or
Tim
was it
Curry.
Lily? Was it Tim Curry?
Tim Curry's
Was it
main
Jack
character.
or was it Lily? And I still don't know who is considered the main character. I consider it Lily because I think Lily had the bigger story arc and it was about her, and Jack was a physical manifestation of something, but not a character per se.
Yeah,
and
she had the character growth moment.
yes,
He only had it temporarily.
even though I'm pretty sure he had more scene time than her. Maybe if you don't include that beginning part. Of it.
Yeah, it showed him definitely more. He had more scenes, but I think hers were more like powerful.
Yes.
Which is odd because it's proven in the past, like Ridley Scott loves working with women and like has great scenes with fucking strong
Yeah.
female characters.
Oh, yeah.
And this one, she's just a damsel in distress until she kind of flips the table.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
But that's
I
her
wanted
character
more
growth.
of that, I guess.
But that's her character growth,
Yeah.
and that makes sense. No, I agree with you. I think your analysis is correct. I think that is the right choice.
Also, I think just how they wanted to have all the characters and like the goblins and the fey creatures, they spent a lot of money on those effects, and it didn't make sense for her to be in scenes with them. So like he had to be in the screen more to show the other characters.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's a reflection on how corrupt and the ugliness of his world would have led to, if he wins, it will have these characters, which I wish there was more of. Just whether
Yeah.
it's a Halloween mask and a hat and you don't really see their face, but you see numbers and vastness.
Yeah.
kind of like Black Cauldron.
Yep.
Like the Horn King's a bad dude, and then you look and he's got an army already.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, yeah, this could be definitely a problem.
I think that was budget.
Just 100% it's
There
budget.
was a fourth goblin, but they had to cut it due to like script restrictions or budget restrictions.
Yeah, 100%. And I totally get that. That's what I mean. A little bit more money and a little bit more time, but also I think because of that fire and them having to move to Pinewood after the 007 studio burnt down, really kind of just swept this movie at the legs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because who knows? And granted, now Ridley Scott being 70-something years old and made his money off of this and doesn't really care, can say and would say anything to be like, oh yeah, the original plan was a masterpiece, blah, 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 blah.
To be clear, I still think that even with your edits and the money and stuff, it still would have flopped because the writing and the design is a fairy tale, which fairy tales by their nature are obtuse.
Yeah.
And that obtuseness does not work mass market.
No, not at all.
If you throw more money at it, that's just less mass market it's allowed to be because it's, it has more money to make back.
Tom Cruise does Top Gun after this. And it's a smash hit.
And this is the extended version in a way because the original American release, he cut out, this is almost 2 hours. It got cut down to 89 minutes. And then the European, I think, had an extra 10 minutes on top of that.
Wow.
So they cut out a lot of the long-winded scenes.
Yeah.
And they kind of, like I said, they kind of spliced scenes in the beginning of the movie that used to be in the middle of the movie and changing the soundtrack. So he completely rearranged these movies.
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it was even worse.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth, runtime I've got right here is an hour and a half.
The one we watched
90 minutes.
is 151 minutes.
Okay.
We watched this one's the almost 2 hour edit. And then he cut pretty much like an hour out of it.
Because Crawl is 2 hours. Willow is 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Fantasy movies.
But it was a studio that were like, hey, you got to do something with this.
Well, you got to look at it too, right? You've had these onslaught of fantasy movies that sort of bombed. And then we get into the 90s, 2000s, and studios are super hesitant. Dragonheart flops.
Yeah.
Harry
Because
Potter.
of the flops.
Because of these flops.
They're scared because of the flops.
Well, I mean, and then we get Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's just the sheer bomb, Dragonheart bomb. Next, Braveheart, not a fantasy movie. Fantasy for some. Bomb. Or not, doesn't bomb, but does okay.
Braveheart did really well.
Did it do really well?
It's very successful.
I've never seen it. Whatever.
It's not a cult movie.
No?
I think it goes into...
Braveheart?
It's very popular.
Okay.
I think people really liked the
Clearly
80s
not.
action
Okay.
and the 90s gritty grunge.
So I think what happened is there was an era where we were in the 60s.
Yep.
And it was wild and crazy. And then we kind of moved on to the 70s and things started to get a little bit more wild. Maybe actually a little less, to be fair. And then in the 80s, they were trying to experiment now with new cinematography, new cameras, VHS, there was home to DVDs. There were these things that were becoming available that weren't necessarily available before. And I think there was a lot of experimentation done in the 80s that led us into the 90s and early 2000s, which became very mathematical movies. We watched a lot of mathematical movies growing up.
We did. And I'd argue that the 70s were that era when things got fucked up for it.
Yeah.
Because you had a Jaws and you had a Star Wars, and that was the blockbuster.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, movies changed. Movies had to cost triple the amount and needed to make quadruple the amount back.
But they
and that's what really fucked everything up for cinema versus making $500,000 movie.
Yep.
$1 million,
Yeah, the
$2
low
million,
budget movie
$2
kinda
million
went down the
movie
drain,
where they just it's Elvis in a car and they're in some girl and they're telling jokes and driving cross country.
Yeah.
And it's a $2 million movie.
Yeah.
And
But that's what you get. The 60s were a wild experimental phase.
For cinema.
The 70s were the outcome of those experimental phases with great blockbusters and huge things.
Or incredibly cheap ones.
And then the 80s they caught lightning in a bottle in the 70s with a lot of these great movies.
Well, it's also the serial killer movie started up.
That's true. And then
That's your cheap cinema. Go ahead.
yeah, and then they continued on with the 80s trying to find lightning in a bottle at high expense, which is why we have so many of these expensive I don't want to say test, but experimental movies, which then led into the 90s and early 2000s, which no, we don't take risks. Now we know the math, we know the science of how to make people happy, and that's where we get the movies that, honestly, a lot of the movies, they are good ones, but they weren't as wild as the ones we usually watch.
I'd argue that the fantasy genre was the swing to the next step, chasing the trend, because we had Star Wars and we had a generation of Star Trek people, right? 66 Star Trek and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's much like superheroes, much like horror movies. There's this trend of what are these people, nerds, these moviegoers, going to pay to see a spectacle of, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see.
Also, the post 9/11 world, people wanted probably something more fantastical instead of real life. Hence, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter.
No, I think what happened was technology caught up to where they believed they could do that stuff.
And a lot of American cinema turned into propaganda after 9/11.
Yeah.
And before, you had very jarhead movies where it was join the army, become a G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And you had a big population, I guess, of like, if you think about like our generation, like the boomer parents had a ton of kids all at once that all grew up in the 90s. So you needed more like kid-like movies to like, more people were going to the movies again, or like 3D movies were a thing, and like you needed just something for kids to do. So a bunch of like fantasy kid movies started coming out too.
Yeah,
yeah,
very true. We're gonna talk about the 3D movie thing on another show because I want to get into that. But
or 12 or 11 when Harry Potter first started coming out, and Lord of the Rings. So it's like that peak time of like, hey, everyone's 10. What does a 10-year-old like?
Yeah, we'll talk about 3D when we talk about the Spy Kids.
Well, I want to even go further back. So I'll ask real quick then, because I think we kind of covered it. But do we all feel like the film itself held up? Yeah. Do you feel like Legend ever would need to be remade?
So I think the only thing that we didn't touch on at all yet is the overdubbing. And the overdubbing kind of ages it and makes it sound like an older movie. Where if they redid it, obviously you wouldn't have the overdubbing. Because apparently the soundstage with the forest was so loud, pretty much any forest scene that they were inside doing it had to be overdubbed.
Well, they had wind in the trees and stuff too, right? Big fans moving all that shit.
It was fans with chicken feathers.
That sounds like an awful time.
Why is it fans with chicken feathers?
Well, that's why it looked all dusty. That was feathers.
Oh, and the glitter. Yeah.
It was all,
shit. Okay.
So also they, David Bennett is German, the Gump. Okay. So they basically dubbed over Alice Playton, who did Blix, dubbed his lines. So that's not even his voice. That's her voice.
The dark, deep male tone is a female doing the voice?
Yeah, Blix, the main goblin.
Yeah.
With the horn. Yeah, she's the one that dubbed over Gump. And the interesting thing is, in the German version, Gump dubs her voice.
That's funny.
Well as because he
speaks German.
His German accent in post was too German, so they dubbed him.
What was it? The kid sounds like a Nazi. It wasn't good.
It
wasn't good.
No, I thought they just dubbed it because, honestly, I thought he was a very young child.
Yep.
And I thought he would have a really high-pitched tone, and they needed a darker voice, so they dubbed it just for the darker, deeper voice. That's the only reason I thought they dubbed it.
That wasn't his voice at all. That was her voice. And also,
I knew it wasn't his voice.
She had the idea, and this is kind of going into props, I guess, with her, she wanted her goblin to look like Keith Richards.
Which one was Blix?
Like the main goblin goblin.
Oh, with the cuff, the long cuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Batman cuffs. Yeah.
They basically went to Robert Botton and is like, "Hey, make this goblin look like Keith Richards." And it was to the point where Tim Curry walked in on set for the first time, and they were already in makeup, and he's like, "This looks really freaking familiar," and she just started laughing. She's like, "Keith Richards." He's like, "Oh my god, I see it now."
That's funny. That's really
even
good.
like the black hair and everything.
That's amazing. I didn't get that at all, but that is amazing. That's
quite
funny.
good.
Yeah,
quite good.
But yeah, the dubbing ages the movie.
Okay,
that's the only thing I would say.
I do agree with you that the audio needs to be. The only thing aging about it is obviously the resolution, but the audio was really rough. It was hard. There was a lot of times you're like, what did he say? I think a few of us,
Yeah.
a few times, like, wait, what?
I think that's prosthetics too.
Oh,
that's
for sure.
That's acting under a pound of makeup.
But in a new era, you could get a better audio, unless you're Christopher Nolan and you're making Tenet.
100%.
Yeah.
So I don't think it necessarily needs to be remade.
No.
I think this is a film that is a product of its time. I feel very much like just like Willow or Dragon Slayer. These are movies that just kind of, whether they work for better or worse, that's up to the viewer. But I feel like, yeah, I don't think anyone would ever make this. Shall we get to a podcast within a podcast?
Yeah, let's bridge those brows.
Let's bridge those brows. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a podcast within a podcast where we bridge those brows. We go around the room real quick and we rate, or we review and rate and talk about props or a scene or a special effect or the eyebrows of a particular actor that we really loved. I'll go first. Tom Cruise. Good Lord. Pluck that,
Thick.
my guy. Thick. I get that. No, that thick ass unibrow.
I honestly didn't
Thick-ass
even
unibrow.
notice it this time. I noticed it like the first time I seen it, but
Yeah.
I didn't even notice it
The
this
first time you seen it, I remember because you just couldn't stop laughing every time he was on scene. And I'm like, what? That was the 80s. This is like this weird medieval,
was
like
like 10 years
Renaissance
ago.
painting bullshit. This movie came out right before Tom Cruise. This movie came out right before Tom Cruise gets all of his teeth ripped out and veneers put in.
Holy shit, did he show those front two teeth?
Hollywood.
Well,
He
he's
showed those
only-
front two teeth so...
He's only 23 in this, so.
Is he?
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's easy to say the swamp hag.
Fuck!
I think it's easy to say
Don't
that.
say the swamp
I'm
hag.
not
I was
going
gonna
to.
say it.
I'm
I
not
loved
going
it.
to. I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Robert Picardo, though, did a really good job.
Fantastic.
Considering he's like from Voyager?
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Trek Voyager.
Is he Voyager?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the doctor. I don't know. I honestly think the goblins are fucking phenomenal. I think the Fey creatures are odd. I don't think we get enough Fey movies. And I think
No.
it's great. And I want more weird A24 Fey movies. And I think the goblins are, in my mind, that's a goblin.
Yeah.
Amanda.
I loved how they used a lot of different actors for the goblins and not just people who are just inherently like short.
Yes.
Like
100%.
Billy Barty, you're right. He was from He-Man.
He was.
And he's played
Not
a
my
lot
Orko.
of little characters. Yeah.
That's what you were getting at.
Yeah, because he's only 3'9". So
I had to prep you with all of these movies, listeners, so this movie would make sense. Welcome to Raised by Spoilers.
But I like that they had him as like the shorter guy that ultimately like saves the day at the end because he's the only one small enough to go up the shaft.
Love that.
And then they had what's his
Hold on.
face?
Did he work the shaft?
Brown Tom just being like, this big like frumpy guy.
Yeah.
Like he's-
Characters.
Yeah,
Just
they're
characters.
just really, really interesting. Just the assortment of people they were able to get, as far as just different demographics and different, not just generic. Oh, everyone just has to be this tall.
On set, hammered constantly.
Oh yeah.
Well, they look like they're trying to replicate a bunch of Scotsmen.
Yeah.
I really liked the effect with Meg Mucklebones. It was made
We're not allowed
of-
to talk about that. Adam's talking about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, you talk about it. Talk
No.
about it.
Oh,
I
no,
got my
I
own.
can-
I got
I can
others.
say
I got
He's
others.
changed it now.
I got others.
It's a cool effect because
It's great.
the way that the latex was put on, and it was like latex foam, it absorbed all the water immediately. So him coming out and just dripping, that's just the foam releasing all the water.
That's awesome.
So that wasn't like intentional, but
And it almost looked like he was on it almost like it was partly robotic, like the back, because it kind of.
I think that was all him.
Reminded me of like a wacky wavy inflatable arm tube man.
I think it was him. That was all him, and I want to say like it looked like somebody was just splashing water up behind him.
So just with a paddle in the water.
You're not heavy enough.
Yeah.
Be heavier.
But yeah, he said it was difficult to do because he was just so bogged down with water.
Yeah, I can see
Absolutely.
that. And a lot of KY or something gel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But just in general, like this movie is insane. The way, like, for that small of a budget, for as big as they made all the sets, insane.
Yeah.
And everything looked real.
No shit.
Like I was like in. Yeah.
Dope. Adam, what's your eyebrows?
Okay, eyebrows. I gotta say it. There was a close up of Lily's face when she was like evil, air quotes,
Yeah.
evil Lily with all the dark makeup.
Yeah.
And she had the most intense unibrow I have ever seen.
Yep.
What was like, clearly it was an artistic choice.
Yep.
This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't left in or
She
anything.
didn't have it before.
She didn't have it before.
Didn't have it
Exactly.
before, yep.
And it's like, why would they make this choice? I'm sorry.
Because the devil's in the unibrows.
I think just because his makeup was so intense with like very angular, like triangle eyebrows, it was mimicking him.
Yeah, it was a bad choice.
Devil's in the details, folks.
Because she also had the widow's peak and the crazy, crunchy, curly hair just sticking up
I
everywhere.
didn't think that was her hair. I thought that was just like the hood. Or
That's a lot of gel.
I think it's the hair.
Really?
Yeah, I think they did it with her hair.
I thought that was just like a hood. Oh, well.
Gross.
Gross.
Yeah.
Real gross.
Gross.
I think I've had hair like that when I was a teenager.
Jesus.
Maybe that's why I lost all my hair, was I used that super green neon gel.
Oh,
that everyone
God.
used.
Oh, God.
Oh, dippity doo.
Dippity doo.
Dippity doo.
Little dippity.
Actually, it's probably off-brand dippity doo. But
okay.
Meg Mucklebones was absolute standout in outfit. Obviously, we love Tim Curry and his sexual attraction, but no, Meg Mucklebones was the only one where I went, "Damn, that is fucking cool."
I want that. Why isn't that the way The Witcher is?
Yeah, that was
Hey,
so rad.
Henry Cavill, why aren't you fighting that? Because that's it. That's all we wanted.
Yeah, the actor's great. The hands that just like clawing at Jack and getting close and kind of Jack being like, "Hey, check out, you're just so beautiful."
Yeah.
And I loved her line of what was it? It was, "I hope you taste as sweet as your tongue is."
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
Mwah!
Adam loves a good witch
Mwah!
role play. It's
So
good.
in the
So good.
American cut, when he cut everything back, he basically kills her immediately.
Ah, fuck you.
And then they kept in that dialogue in the English version, and they're like, "You spent all this time and money and everything, and she's literally on screen for 2 seconds because he kills her right away," which isn't what he wanted to do. Because in this version, he tried everything he could before choosing violence.
Yeah.
I like
he
that.
didn't want to fight.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
McFarlane has done figures of Meg Mucklebone and Darkness. They are stellar.
I'm sure
and
they're stellar.
weird
I
and
don't
awesome.
want them because I don't want them in my house because she is a creepy character.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
No, Meg. I think we all agreed. Meg. It just kind of came out, but no, her eyebrows there were distracting,
Yeah.
to say the least.
We haven't talked about Una at all. The pixie, the sprite.
God, I hated that character.
You didn't like her?
No, I get it. Pixie, Faye. I totally get it. Chaotic, and I get it. She was Jack's darkness, kind of. She was Jack. She was Jack being pulled into the Fae world further, going away from duty and going away from commitment.
I think she was his temptress.
Yes. But it felt kind of weird because she was kind of an ally at the same time. And I didn't really know what to think of that and how to manage it. I also didn't really like hey, I'm going to tell you a secret right now. Just one secret. I'm not actually a pixie. I'm whatever. I don't know what the secret is. I'm big.
Well, yes,
What was the
right.
secret?
She was a will-o'-the-wisp, and then she ended up being actually a pixie. So
Got
she
it.
can change. She can shift.
Oh,
And
okay,
she
so
had
that was the
lied.
secret.
Yeah.
But she's like,
Yeah.
Jack, because I want to jump those bones. I want to be the top. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm
Yeah.
actually a pixie and I can grow and change. And he's just like, but don't tell anyone. This
He's
is
like,
our little secret.
okay.
He's just like, yeah, sure. Why not? I guess. I don't really like you. And then immediately 2 scenes later. So we have a secret and we need her to do the thing.
Well, that's why she was pissed at him, because she's like, "Hey, we had a deal," and he's like, "No, we didn't.
Yeah.
You gotta go. You're the only one that can save us."
So the Fae creatures reminded me of an artist that worked on Dark Crystal and Legend, or not Legend, Labyrinth, with Henson, 1980s Robert or Brian Fraud, and these are some of the illustrations he has done that just kind of remind me of a lot of the Fae creatures portrayed.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is you kind of see that and immediately go, yeah, that's a Muppet. Yeah. So's the owl. And so's the skulls on her thing. Like, there's a great one, and I'm going to try to find it quick, where it is like there's the goblins and the baby from Thing. But this is what those fey creatures immediately, I'm like, there it is. There's the pixie kind of thing, right? And all of these odds and ends of these weird.
Yeah, I just didn't really like her because there was no understanding of when she was going to be a villain, when she was going to be an ally. And I lost track of that, and therefore I couldn't connect to her.
I liked it because she was the only one who knew where Lily was. Like, she had got on her trail right away when they were running down the corridor with all the pillars. So she could have just left her in that room.
Yeah.
And went back to Jack and been like, can't find her. But, and then, nighttime when it came and she would have been trapped.
But that's what I don't understand.
They can't lie.
Okay. See, that's the kind of stuff that, like, sure that...
Faye can't lie, but they can't tell. They don't necessarily have to tell you the truth, kind of vibe.
You're a dungeon master, and you've been playing for a long time. You know random stupid shit like this. The rest of the world doesn't. Not even me.
True. But also the reference though of a mushroom circle.
Also, the world. That's just that's
right,
an odd
but that's,
comment though.
But
it's
not
Eastern European folk tales.
Yeah, but it's
I'm
not
not
an
saying you guys are wrong.
excuse for a character. The problem is I didn't know whether she should or shouldn't do that. Like, deny and walk away. I didn't know whether she was going to be an ally, fuck up the system, and I didn't
burn it all down.
Burn it all down.
Burn it all down.
It just didn't. I couldn't tell what to expect. So every decision she made felt like out of character because she didn't have character. Her character was out of character.
Because I think she was so chaotic. She was neutral, good, and like bad at the same time.
Yeah, she was too chaotic. And I get it. That's great. Fae and fairies and all that fun shit, they're chaotic.
Yeah.
But for a movie with characters and stuff, that doesn't work. Okay. Unless the point is she is chaotic and that matters. That's a part of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get that.
It's not. It's just she's just a temptress sometimes.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. It just didn't make much sense to me. I didn't like her too much. They could have, that entire movie, she didn't need to be there.
I guess they could have figured out another way to get the keys and like to get out.
Yeah,
and like
they could have had a whole different adventure there with a barrel down of water.
She was the one that went up and saved the day at the end too by waking up.
He could have just, you know what? Maybe the dwarf who said you can count on me, for once, could have had a character growth and could have been dependable.
True.
I love it.
That would have been a better. That's why I mean this movie's not perfect. It's definitely got problems. It's hard to judge what the moral of the story is because they fuck it up. But they could have cut her out, all of her scenes. Ugh, that's not great, actually.
It's not. It's not great. It's a naked green woman.
They could
in
have
a swamp.
They could have cut all of her stuff out, made slight adjustments to how they got out. They didn't really need her in the scene with the armor. That was empty. And then the lie scenes and everything that involved her. And they could have taken that time and given Lily more time at the beginning of the movie.
True.
His armor was made out of bottle caps.
Cool.
What is it, from Fallout or something?
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Well, folks, let's go around the room one more last time. Adam. First view. Wow, big exhale. What happened? You're right. I had a good rant on that one. That was good. I liked where you guys were going with that.
Yeah. So
first time. Hey.
Oh, okay. I gotta set up. This has to be set up. Okay.
First time seeing Legend. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? Let me have my little moment.
Okay, it's your moment. You're good at your moment.
Go for it.
I think I'm going to jump right out of the gate.
Okay.
I've slightly adjusted my ratings. Like Mario, I fucked all up.
We had a lot of fun with Mario.
We had a lot of fun
with Mario. It's better than people give it.
Yeah, I think this is probably 6.5.
Fair.
I think a 6.5 is about right for me.
Yep.
There are definitely a plenty things I loved about this movie. There are plenty of things I adore. There are things that were a 10 that were near perfect. But the problem was there are so many things that were a 1.
Yep.
And that's where you meet in the middle.
Yep.
This didn't feel like there was anything middle ground. It was either amazing or utter trash.
Yep.
And that's the problem. It was so jarring between those two during this entire journey.
Yep.
But visuals were an upside, absolutely fantastic. Some of the characters and some of the acting were amazing. Tom Cruise was awful in this movie.
Yep.
The princess was
fine.
shit until she became Dark Princess, and then she became okay. She became acceptable. But anytime she was trying to act innocent, it was trash. It felt like trash. It felt awful.
Well, because it's I'm innocent. Smile does something wrong. I'm innocent. Knocks glass off counter.
She's like, I don't care, and it's like, what the hell?
You're
well, you
such a
needed to like her,
bitch.
but yeah,
You want to like her,
yeah.
but one of the first things she does as a character is she knocks this poor peasant woman's clothing line with
Yeah.
fresh, clean, dry clothes off it, so it dumps into the ground, and she goes,
You'll never guess who
and
did
then
it.
steals her food, steals the poor lady's food. I'm like, how am I supposed to like this character?
Yes, but I think that is the first initial warning of like
There's a
Faye.
problem here.
There's a problem, but there's Faye.
Yeah,
Because she's like fucking pixies.
fucking pixies.
Fucking pixies, right? It's I live on the outskirts of the forest, and this is something that happens on a regular,
Yeah,
right? Troublesome.
no, I think so. I think this movie is pretty good. 6.5.
Okay.
It's not the best, not the worst.
I like it. Obviously.
Go. Cool. Adam. It's a 6.5.
Yeah,
It's a 6.5. This is a fucking 6.5 if I've ever seen a
No, I would
6.5.
say,
It's
okay,
my
no,
turn.
no. Okay,
This is
you
a fucking.
asked me.
I did not. I looked over at you because I was gonna throw it to you, but you were looking something up.
I'm trying to find. When was this? What day was this released?
April
April.
18th,
April. Okay.
85.
Yeah.
Fucking have a hard time with this one.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with this one, and I'm normally real positive with this one. There is parts of this film I love. I love it. Parts of this movie I fucking struggle to get through.
Yeah.
I struggle to get through this movie. It's not necessarily a bad time. There is just, like, for me, larger plot holes that I feel obviously the fire and the budget that they had were clearly a restraint.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like maybe filming outside, maybe some wide shots, but it's the 80s. So they didn't really do X, Y, and Z. They didn't fly to New Zealand and film for fucking 6 months.
Yeah.
They filmed for 16 weeks.
But it was probably also harder back then to get the right lighting for the cameras they had at the
100% for
time.
how much money it is. And
Yeah.
I've also seen stuff that was filmed outside in the time periods, and it's either hit or miss.
Yeah.
It either looks amazing or it's like, fuck, they filmed it 3 times and the sun's in a different place.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you're on a budget. Tom Cruise is awful in this movie. Awful. I
Start to finish.
awful. I personally, unfortunately, this is going to come off a little hot here. Not the biggest Tom Cruise fan
Neither am I.
at all. I think he is weird, and I just can't relate to him.
It feels a little predatory.
I feel I don't get any of those predatorial vibes.
Oh.
I get childhood friends. I get sort of in a weird, he doesn't find her sexually attractive.
Oh, I mean, like Tom Cruise is like in all of his
Oh,
movies.
no. I'm talking just in the film itself.
Okay.
I feel like, once again, not writing fan fiction, but there's this sort of weird, he's not attracted to her sexually. She is maturing and growing up and dealing with the struggles of the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Cruise is like, we're just going to swim naked in the river.
Yep.
And she's like, not anymore.
Are you saying like it's kind of like a Peter Pan?
It's a Peter Pan.
Yeah.
It's a Peter Pan syndrome
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it very, very much is Peter Pan in a way. And it's still with him being like the lost boys in the woods. Like I said, there's a lot here I like. Fantasy wise. Bolton's fucking art, like just costume, 10.
Yeah.
Special effects, 10. The plot with the unicorn horn, love it. The concepts, love it. The amount of like D&D adventures I have seen through this or have like been inspired by from this. I think the Witchlight, the Fae one that just come out about the carnival, is a crux around a unicorn horn. Like it's all of this, like they went, yep, that's that, and goblins and all of this stuff. I think this is a beautiful film. I think every frame is a painting, but that's Ridley Scott, and that's Ridley Scott choosing great cinematographers and listening and communicating clearly for what vision he has until it comes to a script.
Yep.
Ridley Scott's got a lot of great ideas. He's just got a problem putting them on paper. And that's also why I think Dune struggled, and that's why he walked away.
Yeah.
This for me is a 6.5. I would give it a 7. I would even give it a 7.5 if the plot was just a little thicker. And this is us watching the director's cut, and I like the director's cut better. Granted, if you have the time and if you're bored on Spotify, check out Legend and the Tangerine Dreams soundtrack.
Very good soundtrack.
It's weird and synthy and it's all over the place and it's definitely a classic, but it's something else and it doesn't match up with the tone or the time period when the movie was made in for what they were setting for. If you if you think about Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson films, and then say, no, we don't need that score. We don't need those violins. We don't need that little da-na-na. We need synth. And it will fucking rip you out. And you're like, yep, that won't work. That is clearly not the vibe for this film.
Good soundtrack, not for this movie.
Yeah. Even the weird, like when weird face shit happens and there's bubbles.
Yeah.
Love that. Love why? Who knows? Doesn't get explained. It's just Faye.
Doesn't matter.
It's spooky, weird stuff, and everyone's covered in glitter. Okay, I'm on. But yeah, that's honestly my little final take on the thing. I love Ridley Scott. I love his movies, and I will watch Legend
again. So you go
again.
for a 7?
I would go 6.5.
6.5? Oh, wow.
But
okay.
granted, this is a 6.5 for me. But I'll watch the hell out of it. It's a lot like Mario. I will watch the hell out of it.
Oh yeah.
I will go back and watch Mario. Like I won't watch it once a year. But I had a fun time sitting here on the couch with you guys watching it to do the show and went, fuck, I forgot how much I enjoy this. But as a film, there's problems and there's hangups. And I don't like, it's not shitty. It's not shitty. I can show you some shitty movies. We haven't done shitty movies yet.
That's true.
But I have problems with X, Y, and Z. And obviously there was financial hangups and blah, blah, blah. So that's where I land on but I will watch this again. Like, that's why it's great and culty.
Completely agree.
Nintendo Geek, throwing it to you. Bring this plane home. Land it.
I find that the weak link in this was Tom Cruise. Everyone else was fantastic.
Okay.
And it goes to show, like, you know, if it was like Johnny Depp, would there have been a bit more chemistry between them or a bit more, I don't know, because I don't know if they told Tom Cruise just to be, like, super soft, just the way he talked. And very, like, I guess he was portraying more of a childlike, innocent character, and that was what his character was. So to that, he played it to a T, in a way.
I wouldn't say to a T. I'd say to it's more like a number 5, where it's not even on the letter scale. It's bendy, but it does have that top line.
Yeah.
And the bottom line.
It's neat that there is,
which is to say shitty.
He
did not do it to a T.
What are you talking about?
It's not a T. It's a crooked, broken T.
It's okay. So what you're saying is Tom Cruise portrays a man with childlike innocence.
Yeah, because that's what his character is.
Yes.
Like, that's what the Gump is like. Yeah, we need somebody to go down to hell that will not get corrupt. And your first test is going through a tunnel of literal gold. And he didn't touch anything other than to, like, look at an armor piece. And then she's like, no, you want this one over here. So it's kind of like the Arthean, like, the Green Man trials, where it's like you are a knight where you're not supposed to get tempted by anything. He kind of went through the trials the same as the Green Knight.
Adam's over here about to change his fucking score.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to change my score.
He went
but
through,
I didn't really think of that tunnel gold scene the same way.
Yeah.
I just thought, this is fucking random.
He has no concept of money.
Well, they were also tempting him because it's like everybody knows, like, oh, gold equals money. Or, yeah, because he doesn't understand that.
But he got the thing that needed him for the quest, not the thing that he could just take home and walk away with money.
Yeah, only because she's like, hey, this is what you need.
True.
Because he doesn't know anything about
That actually does improve that scene quite a bit.
It does.
It doesn't improve the movie, but improves that scene.
Yeah, it makes sense.
She tries to tempt him with turning into his love interest, and he's like, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. She gets pissed and goes away. He goes through, like, what is it? Yeah, and then he also passes the end trial of not killing her because he believes in her and lets her do the right thing on her own.
He also doesn't want to kill the witch. He tries to talk his way out of pretty much every situation.
So he was playing the character of Jack perfectly.
Valiant.
It's just Tom Cruise. So it's like, it's hard to turn off Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, but that's me knowing Tom Cruise now, not a brand new actor.
I still stumble to think he was a good actor in this.
But
you like the role.
Yeah.
You like the role. You like how the character is
really
portrayed.
good.
You don't like the actor playing him.
I guess so.
Okay.
And that's my bias about Tom Cruise. But that's also, if I would have been back in the 80s, not knowing Tom Cruise, post Top Gun, I guess,
Yeah.
where it turns into the action star.
Mission Impossible, Tom
Yeah.
Cruise.
Tom Cruise, Raised by Spoilers, hates you. You're not allowed back on. You're not allowed back on the show.
No, but
Richard O'Brien, send him a care package.
other than that, when other coming of age movies came out
Okay.
the same year, like Breakfast Club,
Okay.
and then you get those types, it's like this is like a good love story coming of age for someone who isn't into like super duper romance. This is more for like the gothy kids or the theater kids or the D&D kids.
Sure.
The
Sure.
weird
So-
kids.
The weird kids.
Yeah.
The
I
broken
guess so.
people.
So I like it in that aspect where it is something different, where Hollywood at this time was going like, the more, what's this, Hughes movies that's like
John
Pretty in
Hughes?
Pink and like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and like those types of movies were the big thing. So this kind of took a chance
Oh, Pretty in Pink came out
later.
this month. It was in theaters at the time
Yeah.
when Legend was in theaters.
And Breakfast Club came out 2 months before.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's just showing a different
Breakfast
aspect
Club
of it.
is in the 80s?
Yeah, 1985.
No, well, you just said 1995.
No, 85.
I thought it was later in the 80s.
No, 85.
85.
Oh, I thought it was like 88, 89. Okay. Anyway.
But I enjoy it for that. It's true to what it is. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is.
Okay.
It's totally original.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's been a movie that could come close to this, like, in a way, exactly. But it was just lightning in a bottle with, like, the cast was really good. It was the last movie before the soundstage burned down.
Mm-hmm.
So they had, like...
They rebuilt it.
Oh, I know they
Okay.
rebuilt it. But it's just...
They had an extra O at the end of it.
Yeah.
Studio.
I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. And I would give it like closer to like a 7.5 because it isn't perfect. Because like you said, it does have a lot of production issues with, maybe the scenes are a little bit too busy and distracting sometimes. Or the dubbing is a little odd, but that's just what they had at the time to work with.
True.
True.
So yeah, I would give it like a high 7. Like 7.7.
Okay, which is it? Because you went 7.75, and then you went 7.
Can we round that to a 7.5?
Can we
Sure,
land?
7.5.
Can we land at a 7 then?
No.
Can we?
Oh
And
yeah.
now we're
No,
collectively.
we'll collectively. If you go 7.5,
Yeah.
we'll throw your
I think it
score out,
deserves-
and we'll land on a solid 7.
I think it deserves more than a 6. Just as far as like production value and like everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, Tim Curry gave you a sexual awakening. Because
I
he
think-
gave me a sexual awakening.
I think I seen Rocky Horror Picture Show first when I was like 12.
Yeah.
So that ship had already sailed.
that ship has already entered the harbor.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad movie. I just think that there's problems with it, and I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's really, really impressive. Sets, props, production
if you look at
wise,
the
I just
production
feel
over
like.
the script.
But
like,
that's where I have a hard time.
Yeah.
Because I'm having a hard time understanding the movie because I'm getting tripped up on the script. I'm getting tripped up on not the cheesy dialogue because I like Willow. Hey, everybody, I love Willow, and Willow is camp. Willow is a bad movie, but it is campy as hell, and the dialogue is much worse than this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's... Yeah, I'll land. I'll split the difference with you if Adam will allow it, and we'll say it's a 7.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
But
I do find it funny that I think this is the first time you, Rich, and I are not the ones fighting over a score.
Fair.
I think it is fair. And I think
That's fair.
I think we aren't saying anyone's wrong with their opinions, except yours in the comments. Hit us up. But I get what you mean. There's a lot of love and work that went into this film.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
Ridley
not-
Scott was like I think he started writing this or conceiving it in like 1983.
Sure.
Like it took a long time to get to where it was.
Most movies do.
2 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like
Okay.
So
early
not a
80s
long time.
and then
Right.
he went and did Alien instead.
Right.
Yeah, he had this in mind before Alien.
Right.
I think he just had better shit to do. What?
Absolutely. And well, Blade Runner as well.
Yeah,
He
sure.
did Alien, then Blade Runner.
Also, we
then
forgot
this.
to mention, sorry, just a quick little thing because we did mention Jim Henson, that Mia Sara is married to Jim Henson's son.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. A little fun little connection factor there.
Yeah. I always gotta throw a last minute trivia at the end. Be like, wait.
Wait, there's something left in my notes.
You good? You good?
Yeah, we're good.
Are we good?
I think we're good.
Are we live?
Are
we recording? Are we good? Ladies and gentlemen, Raised by Spoilers gives Legend a solid 7. It is fine, not terrible, but also not spectacular. Definitely worth a watch, definitely worth a review. You will see it, you will miss things, and you will want to check it out again. You'll have to stick up and stick with some of the corny dialogue, but the set design, makeup, and overall props are definitely worth a view. The acting in the script kind of starts to fall apart a little bit in the middle, but I would say the ending is pretty okay. Yeah, pretty okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Raised by Spoilers. We appreciate you. We need your help, though. We need a like, a subscribe. We need you to share us with your friends and share us with the world. You can find us at RBS Pod all over the internet, on X and other social media platforms. Will be coming soon. We are on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, a like, and a subscription. I am Geek Movie House.
Nintendo Geek.
And Adam.
And as always, be kind and rewind.